it's not 9:37. It's 6. We'll be off air by then. It's 6:37. Good morning.
Good morning away.
Do you know, I'm distracted because just with seconds to go, Ellie's here taking pictures, taking selfies with the crew.
Oh, it's our last day here, and I want to thank the crew because they've been amazing. They've been doing 12-hour shifts. They are freezing cold, and they've just been amazing. They've kept us on air, haven't they?
They've
been brilliant.
Well, sort of.
And everyone back
they're all very,
well.
very good, apart from John, obviously. But you know, what can you say?
So I'm just trying to capture the moment.
There it goes. It's amazing what goes on behind the scenes. We're just like the singers in a band.
We are.
They're the musicians.
I'm basically sat on you. I need to.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
Let's have a look at the front pages. And it's special today because have a look at all these front covers. They're just amazing. The Times. It doesn't matter what the words are, actually. Just have a look at the pictures. There you go, Sunday Times, that gorgeous shot of them sort of smiling at each other on the balcony here behind us.
Yes, he became the oldest new monarch yesterday. Of course, with Queen Camilla by his side. Really interesting, that one. Mail on Sunday. It captures a special moment between the King and the Queen on the balcony. They've gone for exactly the same picture. And, darling, it was a triumph.
Well, maybe that's what they were saying. Who knows?
What they think they were saying.
Let's have a look at the Sunday Express for you. And that to me is the shot, actually. I think that's the picture of the day. Because he's just that wave and smiling, crown on. I just think that's a fabulous picture.
Yeah, that's what you want, isn't it? The robe and the crown.
Yeah, it's just great.
The Sun have gone with crowning glory on their front page. And there's
more of a solemn.
Yeah,
more of a
solemn
picture in the Abbey.
Within the Abbey, yes.
But nevertheless, I mean, they're all historic pictures. But as I say, it's the Sunday Express, wasn't it? That one that just did it for me.
That was your favourite.
Let's go through the papers in a bit more detail this morning. Emma Wolfe and Alan Miller join us in the studio. Morning to you two, Emma. Let's have a look at the Sun on Sunday, should we?
Yeah, why not? Well, I mean, the coverage is all over the front pages, as you say, and some really, really beautiful photography, actually, really very evocative, I think, of the day. Obviously, they're all souvenir editions for this Sunday, but I think that people will be holding on to these papers for many, many decades to come. And aren't we lucky to have been part of this in a way? Even though, you know, I'm not a rabid monarchist, and I'm sure Alan in the studio with me will be shuddering, but I mean, I think it's a really special event to be a part of, whatever you think of it, and first coronation for 70 years. So the front page of the Sun is just talking about, the coronation, the crowning glory of the King, and I think it kind of sums up how moved people were by the occasion, and how the kind of special moments and the pomp and ceremony were also balanced by the really human moments. William kneeling before his father and kissing him, which is, got me a bit emotional. I thought that was beautiful, and I didn't expect to be moved by most of this. I thought that it would be a long old watch, but actually I thought it was very, very moving. And I thought there was enough fun as well, enough comedy, you know, the gossip, the sort of Harry turning up, the feather in front of him, but the very beautiful ceremony of King Charles and Queen Camilla being crowned.
It was absolutely beautiful. Alan, what did you make of yesterday's event?
Well, it was obviously a hugely impressive pageant, lots of choreographed, curatorial, historic, important, actually, traditional and cultural representation. I think it's also indicative that this attempt to blend the old with the new, which obviously throws up some challenges because much is based on tradition, and when you bring in new things, particularly some of the new ideas about whether it's equality, diversity and inclusion and things like that, it throws up questions about the very institution which people have had. We know that many people are very, very supportive, although there is a bit more of a kind of distinction between sort of, let's say, 62%. About 10 years ago, it was 75% that were firmly committed and supported. I think there's also, it's interesting here because it says that in the Telegraph, the King and Queen took their place in history just as he hoped together. Again, very beautiful pictures, but also draws attention to the fact that how do you bring in these new modern themes when you want to retain an element of continuity and tradition? And it seems that whilst many are celebrating and we're out over the weekend and we've got this bank holiday and they're enjoying that, it does raise that question, particularly when the monarch himself has said that perhaps we should have a slimmed down version of that. And so lots of questions, but I think many people really enjoyed the pageant. And obviously there were some concerns about some of the other areas as well, which we'll come on to, but around protests and stuff like that.
Yeah, oh well, let's slip straight onto that in the Sunday Mirror. They're sort of calling it a divided nation. I don't think that's a fair headline, really. But there were some protests taking place, anti-monarchist protests taking place yesterday, Emma, and 52 people were arrested.
Yeah, so there were thought to be around, the headline is Divided Nation, as you see there in the Mirror, unsurprisingly probably, and around 2,000 protesters are thought to have targeted the royal procession yesterday, and a total of 52 arrests were made. Some of these protesters were, as you see there, clad in yellow. Some were shouting, "Get a real job, abolish the monarchy." Some had placards, and as you see, waving their placards and protesting as the procession went by. The Met Police are saying that they seized various lock-on devices, which is what protesters use to, attach themselves to railings and things like that, and that stops them being moved on. So that's what the Met Police are saying. Apparently 6 Republicans were arrested while just unloading their placards many hours before the ceremony. And some reports of a senior police chief telling his officers, arrest anyone with a megaphone and we can unarrest them later. So I think the police were, they talked about this being, the commander talked about this being a once-in-a-lifetime event. So I think there was a lot of precautionary kind of action. People, worried that they were going to start locking on, that they were going to start disrupting the procession. Obviously, there are questions about this, absolutely valid questions that Alan raises about, valid protest about the fact that we can deal with 50 or 100 people shouting at a procession, and holding placards. If they're doing that, that is peaceful protest, that is lawful, and that's completely valid. But many Republican campaigners and Human Rights Watch and people like that are saying that these arrests were incredibly alarming and that they're really unhappy about it. The police are claiming that it was about 32 of the 52 arrests were on suspicion of conspiracy to cause a public nuisance. So I think this debate will probably carry on over the next few weeks. What is not lawful, what is not public nuisance. Is it okay to have a megaphone and to be disrupting a royal procession, such a beautiful ceremony, to be shouting? I mean, if it was me and I didn't agree with something, I wouldn't go along and shout at it. I wouldn't go along and try to disrupt a ceremony, but of course people have that right. So I think we'll see lots more debate around this.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it is? I mean, are you concerned, Emma, by what we saw yesterday? I mean, I sort of think, 2,000 protesters, 52 arrests, and so there was concern about this locking on, which would have been problematic, and I don't think that is legal in and of itself. No. But I mean, I don't know. You would expect them to be on extra high alert, wouldn't you, during something like yesterday?
And that's what I'm sort of alluding to, is that it was such a high security event. There was so much concern around keeping things under control, and there were Just Stop Oil protesters as well, who are obviously not, necessarily part of the anti-monarchist kind of protest. So I think there was real concern with the police, but we also have to just remember that people are allowed to stand there with placards. People are allowed to talk through their megaphone, although not in certain areas in central London, which in itself is another debate.
I think it also should be
Alan,
said...
what did you make of these scenes yesterday?
Yes. Well, I think it should be remembered that we've just had new legislation come in. Apparently, that was used to do this. I get very concerned with the idea in a free nation with this amount of tradition and history, where we stand on the shoulders of those who fought and died for our freedom, that we don't feel that we have enough authority and can keep calm and carry on and allow people to have their democratic right when they have organised actually and discussed with the police in advance, and they have an area where they say, and they hold up placards and they say things. Any institution, it should be robust enough to have that happen. And frankly, some of the claims that sort of linking them to other fears around terrorism, things like that, I think are very dangerous as well and preposterous. We know that the public is concerned with things like, quite understandably, with Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion when they do criminal damage. But what we've seen there is an unwillingness, a failure of dealing with the laws we currently have. And I think this is a very chilling moment. People should be concerned at the idea that you can be arrested in advance,
Chilling.
even when... Yes, chilling, in the sense that it's very worrying.
But hold on, Alan. Hold on, Alan. I mean, look, 52 arrests. We don't know if these people are going to be found guilty of anything or not. 1,948 people, if the figures are right, weren't arrested during that protest. I mean, it's not as if they cracked down on the whole thing, is it?
Well, I think that the idea that you can stop people, which is what the policing bill is saying now, that you can have protesting, banning orders because you may not just be allowed to go. Where does that stop? When we look at anything in the context of things, why should you be stopped when you've going to democratically go and protest something? It's a very important question for us. And to say that 50 is a small number in comparison, I think it misses the point that, we should have a free society where people are allowed to do this. We should be calm and we should deal with things in a reasonable and rational way. And this seems to be something that's very concerning to me.
Yeah, but hold on. What you're arguing there is that these 52 weren't doing anything that was against the law. Now, maybe they weren't. That's yet to be decided. But they were arrested on suspicion of that. They weren't just arrested. The police had presumably had their reasons for making those particular arrests.
Yeah, we do need to find out more detail, but everyone that was arrested, it seems as though, regardless of anything else that happened anywhere else, the head of Republic, for instance, it was discussed in advance. What has been claimed, and we'll see, but it's been sort of largely reported and agreed by most, that they've been arrested in advance of doing anything. So at 7 in the morning, coming with their posters, going to the area that there was allocated in Trafalgar Square. And the simple point is, if you've arranged a peaceful demo and you go to have a protest, and then people say, well, we're extra nervous, it's a one-off, there's precedents that are set, and we've got this new policing bill, and it's something that's of concern. And in a free democratic society, the right to protest is paramount. It's as important, and as everyone who wants to celebrate this important historical moment, as important and intertwined with everything is our free rights to protest and to have conscience and to be there.
Okay. Emma, Alan, we've got to leave it there for now. We'll see you a little bit later on. Thank you.